Hi guys, Zaxadaxa here. Today I'll be reviewing One Piece Chapter 707 B Block, and I'll first go on to the color spread. It seems like a callback to older spreads to me that were more spacious and chilled out. As a whole, it doesn't do a lot for me, but I like that Oda isn't always filling his spreads to the brim lately, even though of course we've had many amazing color spreads over the past few years from Oda, the king of color spreads. First thing that popped into my head when I saw this, Robin has long legs. It took me a while to even process it because I thought she was randomly growing her legs out of Luffy's swing with her fruit power, and I thought Luffy may have been digging that foot action, which is why he had the goofy grin on his face. There can be comments made about fan service about this, which, don't worry, I'll avoid those as I find it rather tedious to talk about. But just a quick comment, the Oda does seem to be more open to certain angles of Robin's body, and by that I mean her ass. But ladies, don't feel left out, because right to the left of Robin are Frankie's shiny red glutes and his muscular legs similarly strewn in the air. Did it take anyone else forever to notice that there's a giant penguin just like lurking in the background? It took me forever to... I didn't even notice. I just thought it was the Straw Hats and like one seagull or a few. So into the chapter. We launch with Dagama, my man, been loving him ever since he turned up a few chapters ago, to do some cool exposition. He informs us through Big Gnawty Teeth that his king, Elisabello, has a really massive punch that he can unleash that can knock holes through fortresses and supposedly even take down a Yonko. Honestly, it's probably just exaggerated, especially on the Yonko part. A punch of the caliber that we saw in the actual panel of Elisabello annihilating the fortress isn't all that uncommon in One Piece. He obviously wouldn't last long if he needs to charge it up for an hour, so it's just a fun little distraction for the tournament that can throw a curveball if needed. This next bit of dialogue between Bellamy and Lepanto is interesting. Bellamy used to go on about collecting treasure around you and ignoring the dreams in front of you, and was among the cliques in Mocktown, which was all about stepping dreams into the dirt and spitting on them with booze and a smile. Now it seems to strike a nerve with him when the Self-Defense Army Squad captain, Lepanto, justifies why he turned his back on Dressrosa for this fight. Bellamy's not all pristine and squeaky clean as seen with his devilish look when Luffy asks him if he hurt the Skypians, but he has had a change in at least his attitude towards dreams. You can see this because Lepanto doesn't have beer on him and isn't a bloody mess just for even mentioning the term. He also seems to have upgraded his powers a bit, which is nice. He doesn't just throw his body all over the place like some wild flea, but concentrates his power on individuals. Brutality is one of One Piece's hallmarks, whether it's shown explicitly or not, and this is shown by the sinister-looking fighting fish surrounding the ring in its waters. And they are called Little, by the way, and this could either be just a joke on Oda's part, or we may see the real deal later on in this arc, as Oda is apt at world building. Abdullah and Jeep do a pincer attack on an unsuspecting dude, which is pretty unremarkable since we see poor common people take beatings all the time in One Piece, so it doesn't display too much for me about the characters. Racism rears its ugly head again as an enraged spiked mace wielding Walmart customer looking guy talks down to a fishman named Hack, but as expected talk proves futile in an arena when Hack knocks his fat ass to the next dimension, and I'm sure cheap brand potato chips were flying with him. There's something amusing about watching an armada of soldiers get kicked to the curb by long, muscular legs as Dagama gobbles in the background, even though I like Dagama and would like to strategize with him on how to obtain the best mustache and how I should best grind my teeth into the curvy set of pearls he's got, so I could one day hope to mirror his image. The long legs don't look quite as ridiculous as you'd imagine, and actually kick ass. Ricky was the highlight of this chapter for a lot of people, and probably me as well, tied with the ending. Ricky has a panel as large as the other major players in the Colosseum in the previous chapter, so he seems to be a wild card. He also has former prominently over his title, so that goes along with the theories of people thinking he's Kairos, as an old man remembers his fighting style. Dressrosa's crowd panels remain more interesting than most arcs, with the toys fully allowing Oda to express his creative liberty. Bartolomeo just chillin' was another highlight, and I'm sure he has a decent amount to show us. And I had to say that name several times before I got it right. I'm just going with Bartolomeo. We switch to a briefly calm scene of Cavendish and Luffy talking, with Luffy immediately calling him Cabbage in the very same panel as he says his name is Cavendish. Luffy loves to call people by the most awkward names possible, rendering them an embarrassed mess, which is always a joy to watch. But man, that was quick this time. Luffy's headgear must be squeezing his brain, or his beard is muffling how he talks, and cabbage came out or something. And the knife marks on Cabendish's, yeah, that's his name now. Wanted poster, a neat addition. I love when little details that show how long of a journey it's been for someone pop up. Luffy sweats bullets as Cavendish talks about killing all the worst generation pirates and talks about the possibility of them being masked like Luffy. And at the end of the chapter, Don Shinjao creeps in with a mighty beard that trumps the shit out of Luffy's, and this scares him so both him and Cavendish freak the hell out. And when Cavendish freaks out, his sparkleometer amps up to full fab. I like to think each sparkle there represents how many times he crapped his pants at the sight of that dude. Don Shinjao leaves the chapter off with a nonchalant mentioning of his hatred for Garp and all his descendants. Before we leave off, the question remains, how did Don Shinjao notice Luffy so quickly? Was it in the waiting room? His eyes are closed after all, but that might not mean much if he has an alternate way of knowing. And what does the 12 on his forehead represent? Guess we'll have to wait and see. Overall, this chapter had a few silver linings, but I found it to be pretty slow. And fleshed out some of the fighters, which many weren't expecting. A lot were just expecting them all to be quickly thrown to the wayside. And I have no problem with fleshing out almost any character, no matter who they are. I just found the chapter's content in general to be lacking compared to what we've had previously. But this is just a warm-up chapter, so it's all good. I give One Piece Chapter 707 a C+. I'm going to use letter grades for chapter reviews so people don't confuse them with my other music reviews, book reviews, and other stuff where I use tiers. And that's about it, honestly. Yeah, C+, One Piece Chapter 707.